G'day. My name's Murray, and I really don't want to make this video. I really don't want to talk about mental health, to be honest. But that's why we need to do it. That's why I'm going to push through after sitting here in my daughter's bedroom, the only quiet spot in the house, and weighing up whether or not I would commit to talking about this. Because if I don't, then who will? It feels like quite often these things are said by companies and, I don't know, large organizations, well meaning, I'm sure, with really bland, generic statements like, we need to prioritize mental health and let's talk about mental health at work. Um, and I'm sure for many other people that have dealt with mental health issues or, feel anxious or depressed or down or whatever, stuff like that is just so easy to blow off. It's like, yeah, cool. I'd like to, but I don't have the capacity. I don't, you know how. So hopefully, me making this video helps start a few more conversations that may have happened otherwise. So the reason I feel confident, somewhat confident, having this conversation isn't because I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I don't even like visiting doctors. I'm sure they're lovely people. I don't know how anyone could have volunteered to go to school for another 20 years, but good on them. I didn't study medicine. I have a PhD in being sad. I have been sad for as long as I can remember. I I have lots of happy moments. I I have lots of friends and loving family, and I've done lots of really exciting, fun things in my career, and lots of those have brought me joy. But compared to the kind of deep, lasting experience of happiness that other people around me and growing up and friends and even family members have spoken about, I, for a long time, really thought that that was beyond me. It was simply not an experience that was accessible to me because I had no uh, it didn't seem possible. And then last year, 2 years ago, I was reading. I finished reading a book in uh, an audio book in a library app, and went to look for another one. And for whatever reason, the algorithm thought it would be um, funny or life changing. I'm not sure, to suggest another book to me um, about highly sensitive people. And I'd never heard that term before, but it it rang somewhat true, especially after COVID. It felt real and maybe relevant. So I dove into Dr. Elaine Aron's work and was felt like really validated in some ways, and also like a lot of this doesn't feel relevant. Um, but afterwards, I read most of the book and then thought I'll go off and do some more research and learn more. Is this even a thing? Is this really a thing? And the vast majority of people I found online who described themselves as highly sensitive people ended up also finding out later on that they were ADHD. And what the medical community, an actual doctor who knows what they're talking about, um, will quite often associate the terms or the idea of a highly sensitive person with the more medically accurate term of rejection sensitive dysphoria, and which is a comorbidity or something that a lot of people with ADHD experience or end up being diagnosed with. So, despite being told by a bunch of doctors growing up and specialists and whatever that I definitely did not have ADHD and I definitely did not need to worry about that. So here's some meds or here's something else for something else. I took the test and it looked it rang true for me. It was like, okay, well, right, that seems pretty high. I had to go and then see a doctor to try and get a referral to see a psychologist so that I could see a psychiatrist, and because that's how it works here in Australia. And my doctor basically said, "That's not you. You you're not you're not jumping around like I know." Fortunately, I'd already done my research, and I knew that some people had experienced stuff like that from some more traditionally trained doctors. I think he was like a part-time doctor or whatever. Anyway, um, I said, "Here's the name of the psychologist. Here's the name of the clinic that I want to go and see. Just write me a referral, mate. I know that you might not necessarily agree or believe in the updated diagnostic criteria for ADHD, but just at least let me go and be checked out by a professional, by a specialist." He grudgingly agreed and signed the piece of paper. And of course, yeah, as it turns out, I scored 99.9%. Um, I won ADHD, whatever that means. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not excited about it. I don't, I don't, I still don't necessarily know how to feel about it. I certainly don't know how I'll feel about it after publishing this video. But what it gave me was a huge amount of relief. Because for the first time in my entire life, in 40 years, I was able to confidently say to a friend or a family member or my kids' teachers that, hey, I'm really sorry um, that I'm often late or whatever. Here's some things that I've learned to um, to ensure that that happens less. But I want you to know that it's in no way a reflection on how I feel about you or how much I want to be here or my respect for you or any of those things. Because for the first time in my entire life, I have a pill that I take every day which allows my body to produce dopamine, as much dopamine as normal, as neurotypical people. It I'm finally able to access and use my prefrontal cortex for the first time ever. I have a level of executive function and emotional regulation that never existed before. I thought I was broken, and I was told over and over and over that I was broken or I didn't care, and there was simply no place in society for someone like that. I have to be clear here. I don't want any pity and I do not want any sympathy. I don't know anyone who has found out they have ADHD as an adult who wants special treatment or anything. Most of us really just want to keep it to ourselves. But here's the thing, as much as I want to do that, I stopped being sad. I not completely, not overnight. It's not like I don't feel sadness, but I stopped feeling clinically sad, chronically sad. I stopped feeling as lonely. I was able to process emotions in a completely different way. I was able to see a feeling come and prepare for it and know that I was able to face it and deal with it rather than allowing it to take over and run my life. And what I realized is if this is the case for me, then I wonder how many other people aren't clinically or chronically sad purely because of something that's going on in their body. And just like me, I wonder how many other people out there wish that they or don't understand why they have another beer or can't put down the the credit card or the you know take the foot off the pedal and stop doing crazy things, stop trying to fill this gap in themselves because I don't feel as I don't feel anywhere near as I don't feel that as strongly as what I have for most of my life because now those ideas, those feelings come up, but I have the ability to decide which ones are valuable, which ones serve me, and which ones don't. Because it turns out that dopamine isn't what I was told and isn't what most people that I've spoken to in the past 12, 18 months still believe it is. It's not a pleasure hormone, it's a neurotransmitter which is much closer to the idea of what we associate with motivation. Dopamine essentially pulls us towards things that we want to do and takes us away from or holds us back from things that we don't want to do, that don't serve us. So it follows then clearly that if you don't produce enough dopamine, if your brain just doesn't have that ability, which mine doesn't, and 500 million other people around the world also don't, then that is a pretty clear it makes perfect sense that it's really, really hard to stop doing things that you know are bad for you, but also to turn up on time and do a lot of the things that I was told I was not doing because I was immoral or lazy or useless or whatever your opinion of that is, um, which I internalized. I completely took on board. Um, there's a couple of stats I've heard recently that apparently people with ADHD are here up to, I think it's like 20 or 30,000 more times more negative feedback or when you are told that what you're doing is wrong and hurting other people and disrespectful and rude and lazy, often from the people you who are doing their very best to show their love by helping us learn how the world works and how to be functional members of society. In my case, my parents did the best they could. They spoke to doctors, they spoke to teachers, and they spoke to other parents. But without the obvious symptom of hyperactivity, because I don't need to move, I don't struggle with that part of my dopamine. I don't my I'm not I don't feel a compulsion to move or whatever. All of mine is internal. It's all in my head. It's all just thinking, which is where the oversensitive thing comes from. It's like it just makes perfect sense that I pick up on, subtle movements and, ideas and like sounds and things like that because rather than my brain having this incredible highway between, what it wants to do and what it's going to do, fed by multiple neurotransmitters, but in this case, dopamine, I didn't have that neurotransmitter. So I think, getting into some random neurobiology here, I have a hypothesis that the reason that I've built a career out of creative work and coming up with ideas and connecting dots and connecting people and networks in ways that others sort of don't necessarily see or aren't as, motivated to work on is simply because my brain was so starved of dopamine that it tried to produce it by going elsewhere, by sending other neurotransmitters or messages to other parts of my brain. And that has lit up parts that are disparate links and neural pathways that maybe wouldn't be there if I had lots of dopamine. So, as crap as it is and has been to have this, it's got some really wonderful upsides. And I I mean, some people call it a gift. Wish I could give it back, to be honest. Maybe re-gift it, but I'm just grateful that I know about it. I'm just grateful that I found out. And the reason that I wanted to make this video is I feel like there's an awful lot of people out there who might also be happy to know or find out that this is how they operate, that they're not broken, but their brain simply doesn't have a thing that moves messages around in the same way that some other people do. Also, that you're in really good company. Michael Jordan, Richard Branson, Beyonce's sister, Justin Timberlake, like seriously, some of the most amazing people, but most successful, most creative people in the world, in history, really, like probably had the same thing. And I'm not saying that you can't be successful or creative if you don't have ADHD. It just really helps if you are constantly searching for something to excite you or something new, because that's what fires me up. I'm just always looking for novelty. I'm looking for something different, a different way of doing things, showing people a different way of doing things. That's what I'm good at. That's what I love doing for work. And it turns out that is a fairly consistent trait in ADHD people. So, this has already been way too long. If you've made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. You probably don't have ADHD because most of us couldn't make it through a 5 minute bunch of dot points. Um, if any of this sounds like you or someone you know, by the way, if this sounds like someone you know, don't diagnose friends, don't diagnose friends, okay? That's not cool. But it is absolutely awesome and considerate and compassionate and just really needed on a day like today if you maybe gently point them towards some resources, you know, nudge them about it, maybe start sharing some memes or some funny content about ADHD, and just like me and at least half a dozen people in my friendship circle and family have found that as a gentle pathway in to go, huh, well, yeah, I do often leave for a meeting at 9 o'clock at 8:59 in the morning, believing that I'll get there on time. If you if it helps, um, I've also just as a side project, I built a website where I'm sort of, I don't know, writing some content and building some tools and resources to help with things like this. So it's there. It's not just about ADHD. It's about anyone with neurodivergence or neuro difference. And so it's humans.com, but neurohumans or neurodiverse. So it's HEUMANS.com. Because we're all neurodiverse. Everyone has a different brain to everyone else. And the fact that mine is broken in this way doesn't mean that, you know, what we currently now know as neurotypical, that'll we'll probably figure out, you know, something that they could really use to have some more support in different ways. I think ADHD is broken itself. We have terrible diagnostic criteria. It's probably three, four, five different things in one. I don't have hyperactivity, lots of other people do. We can take the same medication. I don't think that means that we have the same disorder. I don't even think it's a disorder. But anyway, whatever. If you go to humans.com, check it out, maybe send it to a friend. If it sounds like you, I've also drafted up a letter and put it there that would have helped me have a conversation with my doctor. And you can just download it, personalize it for yourself if it helps, to just hand it. Lots of people don't feel comfortable talking about this stuff, so it's really just a template to say, hey, this is this is something that I'm worried about, that I've been looking into, and could you please give me a referral to another doctor? Here's, you know, some examples or whatever. That works in Australia. I would love to hear from people in other countries or, you know, anywhere around the world if that is something that would work for you, or if there's another, version of that that I can spin up. Um, but the problem is, even for those of us that really want to get more information or even get diagnosed, here in Australia, I had to wait for 2 years. Um, in New Zealand, it's even longer. In the States, it's even longer. In the UK, it's blown out to like 5 to 10 years. So, one of the other projects that I'm experimenting with that I'd love your help on is essentially to build the world's largest, or possibly the world's most comprehensive library of lived experience for those that have been diagnosed with um, some form of neurodiversity, so that even if you are waiting for 5 years, or if you're not sure, if you're like, no, I think I'm totally normal, but I'll go and have a look. Hopefully, very soon, we'll be able to you'll be able to compare your experience, your lived experience, with that of people who have been diagnosed with ASD or Tourette's or ADHD or anything really, and just get a sense of, oh right, yeah. I mean, I spoke to my doctor and they said you're totally fine, but it really does sound like I might have that thing or that thing. So hopefully, just helps you know thyself a bit better. I'm doing lots of other cool stuff. I'm really passionate about this space, and I would love to focus on it more. It's pretty hard doing it on the side, as around client projects. So if you are passionate about this and you're interested in supporting, or getting involved somehow, then please, just go to humans.com and yeah, say good day in whatever language or however you see fit. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a happy World Mental Health Day, whatever that means. I appreciate you sitting through my very, very long video. It's lovely to meet you. Cheers.